Hello 10th class students. Today we will study some more facts about the respiration in the living organisms. We will see about the type of respiration in detail. So let's start the video. Students, the respiration is broadly divided into two parts, that is aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration, on the basis of the consumption of the oxygen that takes place during the process of respiration. When the respiration occurs in the presence of oxygen by the utilization of oxygen that is present in the air, that respiration is called aerobic respiration, and whenever this process, the process of respiration, takes place in the absence of oxygen, then it is called anaerobic respiration. Let's see them in detail, that which are the main steps that are present in this. In aerobic respiration, students, it uses the oxygen, that is why this is called aerobic respiration. In aerobic respiration, the oxidation of glucose food or the glucose present in our food takes place and is completely broken down into the carbon dioxide and water by its oxidation. Remember students, in respiration or in aerobic respiration, the complete oxidation of glucose takes place and production of carbon dioxide and water takes place. See here, water and carbon dioxide and water, along with the production of large amount of energy, 38 ATP of energy is produced. The energy that is produced in the form of ATP is utilized by the living organism to perform their vital activities and their metabolical activities of the body. So, see here, the amount of energy used by organism which get stored in the ATP molecule. Remember students, the energy in the living organisms is stored in the form of ATP. Next is students, the representation of aerobic respiration in the form of a simple chemical reaction, that is when glucose combines together to form the pyruvate. Glucose is of 6 carbon atom molecule and pyruvate is 3 carbon atom molecule. Now these 3 carbon atom molecules in Krebs cycle in the mitochondria get converted into energy, carbon dioxide and water. We have studied about this. Now let's see about the anaerobic respiration, the process of anaerobic respiration. In anaerobic respiration, students, see here, it takes place without oxygen. The very first thing, that this respiration or anaerobic respiration takes place totally without the oxygen. There is no involvement of the oxygen in this process, and it is called anaerobic respiration. Secondly, the microscopic organisms, the organism in which this process or this respiration is found are known as anaerobes, and it is mainly found in the microorganisms which are nearly made up of single cell, just like yeast, which is used for the fermentation, and some bacteria. So they are called anaerobic respiration or anaerobes, and this process is called fermentation. The production of energy by the anaerobic respiration is also known as fermentation. Next is students, in anaerobic respiration, the microorganisms like yeast break down glucose into ethanol and carbon dioxide and release energy. Remember, in aerobic respiration, see one more time the reaction of the aerobic respiration. Here the production of carbon dioxide, water and ATP molecule. Only 3 things are producing there: carbon dioxide, water and energy molecule that are ATP. We have seen ATP, adenosine triphosphate. But students, in terms of the anaerobic respiration, see, ethanol, alcohol is produced, and carbon dioxide and release of energy. But remember, the amount of energy is very much different as compared to that of the aerobic respiration. In the aerobic respiration, there were 38 ATP of energy was there, but in case of anaerobic respiration, only 2 ATP of the energy is produced. You can see how big difference is this. But in aerobic respiration, there were no production of the ethanol or alcohol were taking place, but in case of anaerobic respiration, ethanol is produced along with the production of the carbon dioxide and 2 ATP of the energy. Let's see its reaction. The reaction of anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration produces much less energy which gets stored in the ATP molecule. The energy in both the cases, aerobic as well as in anaerobic respiration, produced in the form of ATP, but in aerobic respiration 38 ATP are produced, but in anaerobic respiration only 2 ATP molecule of the energy are produced. See here the basic difference between the aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. You can see here students that when glucose molecule is oxidized, there are two different phases of the respiration. In the very first phase, oxidation of glucose takes place, and in that oxygen the formation of the pyruvic acid or pyruvate takes place. Here you see this is the pyruvic acid. In this pyruvic acid students, it is 3 carbon molecule from 6 carbon molecule to 3 carbon molecule pyruvate is produced. This step is same in aerobic as well as in anaerobic respiration. There is no difference in the first stage in aerobic and anaerobic respiration. This process of anaerobic respiration, takes place in the cytoplasm of the cell. Now, and this is called glycolysis. The formation of pyruvate from the glucose is known as glycolysis. Glycolysis is same for aerobic as well as anaerobic respiration. And now see the difference. In aerobic respiration, when there is availability of oxygen is there, then what will happen? Then when O2 is used, then we call it aerobic respiration, and carbon dioxide, water and 38 ATP molecules are produced. But student, whenever there is O2 is not used, see here, when O2 is not used, then we call it anaerobic respiration. This is our phase second. And in anaerobic respiration, the ethanol, or we call it ethyl alcohol, that is C2H5OH. Ethanol or ethyl alcohol is produced along with the production of 2 molecule of carbon dioxide and 2 molecule of ATP. Now see, 38 ATP and only 2 ATP. It is a huge difference. A difference of 36 ATP is there in the process of aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So we can easily conclude that aerobic respiration is much beneficial for the living organisms who needs a lot of energy for their existence. Sometimes students, instead of anaerobic respiration, when there is lack of oxygen, when there is a little amount or insufficient amount of the oxygen takes place, then instead of production of ethanol, lactic acid is produced. What produces students? Lactic acid. But this lactic acid is produced only when there is insufficient amount of oxygen is present, only a little amount of oxygen is there, which is the amount of oxygen which is insufficient for the aerobic respiration. Then lactic acid is produced, and the best example of the production of lactic acid is that this lactic acid is produced inside our muscles. Whenever we suddenly do some hard work or some physical work, then there is no sufficient supply of oxygen takes place to our muscle cells. Then our muscle cell perform the aerobic respiration, but in insufficient amount of the oxygen. Then that lactic acid is get deposited in between our muscle fibers, and our muscle get starting pain. But after some times, due course of the body heat, the lactic acid get melt and again melt down and releases in our blood and make free our muscle fibers, so retarding the pain. See here that sometime when there is lack of oxygen in our muscle cells, another pathway for the breakdown of pyruvate is taken. Here pyruvate is converted, see, pyruvate is converted into lactic acid, which is also a 3-carbon molecule with the release of a small amount of energy. Lactic acid is also a 3-carbon molecule and energy is also produced in this condition, but this lactic acid get deposited in the muscle fibers of the living organism, so it causes the pain. See, the reaction representation for the production of the lactic acid is when glucose converted into pyruvate, then pyruvate instead of getting converted into ethanol, it get converted into 2 molecule of lactic acid and 2 ATP energy. Amount of the energy is equal to the amount of energy that we are producing in the anaerobic respiration, but instead of production of the alcohol, production of lactic acid takes place in muscle. Remember students, this reaction takes place only in the muscle tissue and not the outside, not from outside the muscle tissues. Now students, the process of respiration also takes place in plants, because each and every type of living organisms required energy for their survival, including the plant also. So the production of energy in the plants is also takes place through the process of respiration, but there is some difference in the respiration in plants as well as in animal. Let's see them. First of all, like animals, plants also need energy. The plant get this energy by the process of respiration. That is clear that the respiration takes place in both plants as well as in animals. Plants and the respiration, the process of respiration requires oxygen. So plant also intake the oxygen, also uses oxygen of air for respiration and release carbon dioxide. In the lower classes students, you have studied that plant intake carbon dioxide and give out oxygen, but this intaking of oxygen and intaking of carbon dioxide and giving out of the carbon dioxide oxygen is only takes place during the process of photosynthesis. Only in photosynthesis the oxygen is released and carbon dioxide is taken in, but in respiration the reverse of this process takes place. The plant also intake oxygen and give out the carbon dioxide. Let's see. The respiration in plants is somehow differ from the respiration in animal in main three aspects. Let's see which are these main three aspects are there. See here, in plants students, each and every leaf is capable of absorbing the oxygen from the environment, intaking of the oxygen, but in animal like us, we have only lungs in order to intake the oxygen. So, there is very less amount of the oxygen is transported from the one place to another place, but in our body, maximum amount of oxygen is get transport from the lungs to the different part of the body. So, the very first difference is that all parts of the plant are like root, stem and leaves perform respiration individually. They can perform the individual respiration, but in animal, respiration is get performed in a single unit only. As you know students, that animals require a lot of amount of energy as compared to the plant, because plants need not to move from one place to another place in search of the food. That is why the respiration in plant occurs at very slow rate as compared to that of the animals. So these are the major three differences that distinguishes the respiration in plants and respiration in animals. Let's see next students. Plants get oxygen by diffusion. The process of diffusion in which the transportation of the oxygen takes place from higher concentration to lower concentration. So, in the leaf of the plant, the absorption of the oxygen takes place by the process of diffusion. See here, diffusion process is responsible for the intaking of the oxygen and giving out of carbon dioxide in a plant. First of all, plants have branching shape, they have lot of branches, they have lot of leaves, and so they have quite large surface area as compared to the body of the animals. Their whole surface area of the absorption of the oxygen is very high. So, due course of that high surface area, diffusion can fulfill the supply of the oxygen in their requirement. Diffusion occur in the root, stem and leaves of the plants. All these three portions are responsible, or they can intake the oxygen through the process of diffusion. Now let's see students, how the process of respiration occur in different parts of the plant, that is in root, in stem and in leaves. See, first of all, the respiration in roots. In the roots students, there are small hair-like structures present which are known as root hairs. Root hair absorb the oxygen present in between the soil particles and then transfer this oxygen to the different parts of the plants, as well as the root cell themselves uses that oxygen for the respiration. Second thing, carbon dioxide produced by root cell diffuse in the opposite direction due course of the concentration. When higher concentration of the carbon dioxide is there by the process of respiration, then it diffuses out in the soil. In waterlogged condition, when there is large amount of the water is present in the soil, then root doesn't get the proper oxygen and the plant root may get wither and plant get died. You have seen that during the rainy season, when there is large amount of water get collected at a place, then the plants at that place get die. That is due course of the not performing the respiration by the root cell of the plant. So, the plant may get wither, that condition is called wither, and the plant may get die. Second thing, the respiration in stem. Oxygen from the air in herbaceous plants have stomata. This word is very important, students. Stomata are the very small pores present in the stem or in the leaves of the plant that opens at a particular time and responsible for the exchange of the gases. Through the stomata, the plants intake oxygen or carbon dioxide and give out either carbon dioxide or oxygen according to their need, either in photosynthesis or in respiration. See here, students, this stomata, the oxygen from the air diffuses into the stem of a herbaceous plants, the respiration for the cell for respiration. The carbon dioxide gas produced during the respiration diffuses out into the air through the same stomata. The same stomata is responsible for intaking the oxygen and giving out the carbon dioxide. In woody stem, now the stem whose wood is very hard, instead of stomata, it have some special type of pores or cells which are known as lenticels. See here, instead of possessing stomata, they possess the lenticels for gaseous exchange, and in woody stems, the gaseous exchange takes place through the lenticels. Now, students, respiration in leaves. It is the most simple type of the respiration that takes place in the leaves, because leaves has large number of stomata on their surfaces. So, they can easily intake oxygen through the stomata and give out the carbon dioxide through the process of diffusion. Remember, diffusion is the process by which plants intake the oxygen and give out the carbon dioxide. Next is a student. Net gaseous exchange in the leaves of the plant. What is the meaning of net gaseous exchange and how this process takes place? Remember, students, I told you that plant perform both the processes. One is photosynthesis and second is respiration. In photosynthesis, students, plant intake the carbon dioxide and give out the oxygen, or utilize the carbon dioxide and produce oxygen. But in process of respiration, they do the same as we do. They intake or utilize the oxygen and give out the carbon dioxide. Now see, during the daytime, because this process changes in the daytime and night time, the exchange of the gases changes in the day and in night. In the daytime, students, when there is abundant amount of the sunlight is present, then plants perform the process of photosynthesis. And in photosynthesis, we write here, the plant photosynthesis, plant intake CO2 and give out O2, or they produce oxygen. Now, students, in daytime, plant also perform respiration. They also produce energy also. They also use some oxygen. So, when the plants produces the oxygen, then some of the oxygen is utilized in the process of respiration, and the rest of the oxygen is released in the environment, because large amount of the oxygen is produced in photosynthesis. So, a little amount of the oxygen that is produced inside the leaf itself utilized by the plant, and plant need not to absorb the extra oxygen from the environment for the respiration, but instead of oxygen, it absorbs the carbon dioxide, it intake the carbon dioxide for the photosynthesis, and the requirement of oxygen for respiration is fulfilled by the oxygen produced in photosynthesis, and rest of the amount of the oxygen is removed in environment. See here, during the daytime, when photosynthesis occurs, oxygen is produced. The leaves use some of these oxygen for respiration. Some of the oxygen among the total oxygen produced in the leaf is utilized by the plant itself for the process of respiration, and the rest of the oxygen diffused out in the air. Second thing, again during the daytime, we are talking about the daytime only. Again during the daytime, carbon dioxide produced by the respiration is all used up in photosynthesis. Now when the respiration is performed by the plant, then a little amount of carbon dioxide is also produced. When it utilizes that oxygen, it also produces the carbon dioxide, and whole amount of the carbon dioxide is utilized by the plant, because plant need large amount of carbon dioxide. So with the utilization of a little amount of the carbon dioxide that is produced by the plant, it also absorbs the carbon dioxide from the environment. So see here, photosynthesis by leaves, even more carbon dioxide is taken from the air. So what will be the ratio of the oxygen and carbon dioxide that is absorbed is, we can see net gaseous exchange in the leaves during the daytime. It is not only purely exchange the oxygen and carbon dioxide, but it also utilize the oxygen produced in it in the leaves and carbon dioxide produced in the leaves. So you can see net gaseous exchange in the leaves during daytime is O2 diffuse O2 diffuse out and CO2 diffuse in. O2 diffuse out because O2 is given out in the environment, and carbon dioxide is absorbed inside the plant. The ratio of this is known as the net gaseous exchange in the leaves during the daytime. Now see what happened in the night time. At night, when no photosynthesis occurs because there is no sunlight presence in the night time, then only the process of respiration takes place. There is no production of oxygen occurs, only utilization of oxygen takes place. Let's see, and hence no oxygen is produced because there is no photosynthesis, so no production of oxygen takes place. Oxygen from the air diffuses into the leaves to carry out the respiration. Then during the night time, plants only intake the oxygen and not the carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide produced by the respiration diffuses out into air. During the night time, only carbon dioxide is exhaled out and oxygen is taken in. So students, during the night, the net gaseous exchange in the leaves at night is O2 diffuses in to the CO2 diffuses out. The ratio of both is the net amount of the gaseous exchange that takes place during the night time. Again, once again you can revise it. During the daytime, O2 diffuses out minus CO2 diffuses in, and in night time CO2 diffuses in minus O2 diffuses out, because O2 diffuses in will be larger as compared to the CO2 diffuses in. So students, this is all about the respiration in plant as well as in animal, aerobic respiration, anaerobic respiration, and what are the differences between them. Thank you so much for watching this video in the group of Sandipani Higher Secondary School, Rajoda.